Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling something a lot of you are probably interested in, improving your English language skills. It's a pretty valuable thing to pursue, and we're going to explore some practical advice on how to get there.
Definitely valuable. It's a game changer. Okay, so you're ready to take your English to the next level, and we are diving deep into all the tips and tricks that your sources have laid out for us. Today, we are really going to try to give you that clear path forward with the most effective and actionable steps so you can really improve starting right now.
Absolutely. It looks like your sources really do cover a lot of ground. I mean, we've got listening, speaking, reading, writing, grammar, vocabulary, even that big one, thinking in English and getting involved in learning communities.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so we'll break it all down.
All right, well, let's start with listening. Your sources really emphasize immersion, like watching movies and listening to podcasts. But it's not just having it on in the background, right?
Right. It's about active listening. So really focusing and paying attention to things like pronunciation, the rhythm of sentences, and even those subtle changes in tone.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and one of the sources even suggested transcribing short audio clips,
Oh, wow.
which, yeah, sounds intense. But that level of focus, it really helps build a deeper understanding of the language almost subconsciously.
Okay, so moving on to speaking. It seems like the biggest thing is to just put yourself out there and practice.
Exactly.
A lot of these sources talk about finding a practice partner.
Right.
But there's this one really interesting technique called shadowing. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and then you try to repeat exactly what they said immediately after.
Okay.
And what's cool about this is that it kind of tricks your mouth into forming those new sounds and rhythms.
Huh.
There's even a study mentioned in your materials that showed how shadowing can actually improve your pronunciation and fluency at the same time.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so you can start with short sentences and then work your way up as you get more comfortable.
Okay, so for reading, it seems like most of the advice is to start with material that's easier to understand and then gradually work your way up to more challenging stuff.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, and of course, taking note of any new vocabulary is super important.
Definitely. But it's not just about making a list. One of your sources suggested creating mind maps around new words, so linking them to synonyms, antonyms, example sentences.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and that kind of active engagement really helps those words stick in your memory.
Now, when it comes to writing, keeping a journal in English seems like a good low-pressure way to practice.
Absolutely. And one source even pointed out that short, regular writing exercises, like summarizing an article you've read in English, can really make a difference in improving your clarity and sentence structure over time.
Okay, so grammar and vocabulary. There's that classic tip to learn a few new words every day and try to use them in conversation.
Yeah, I like that one. Feels achievable, right?
Totally. And then there's this idea of using flashcards with something called spaced repetition. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah, spaced repetition.
Yeah.
It's a really cool technique. Basically, it takes advantage of how our memory works. One of the articles explained that by reviewing words at longer and longer intervals, you can actually get those words into your long-term memory much more effectively than just trying to memorize them all at once. Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the next thing we have is this idea of thinking in English, which honestly just sounds so difficult.
It can be a tough one, for sure.
Yeah, so where do you even begin with that?
Well, one of the more practical tips I saw in your materials was to try labeling objects around your house in English.
Well, that's simple but good.
Right. And another one was to have these little internal dialogues with yourself in English throughout the day. Just try to gradually shift that inner voice.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would help.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, we've got joining online English learning communities. Your sources really highlight the importance of that social aspect.
For sure, it provides motivation, and you have a space to ask questions. Plus, you get exposure to all sorts of different accents and communication styles. And there's even the added benefit of reinforcing your own understanding when you have to explain concepts to other people.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So it really seems like the key takeaway here is consistent engagement across all of these different areas. Like we've seen some pretty concrete, actionable steps here. Trying out that shadowing technique, keeping a short journal in English, and even just focusing on using a few new words every day.
You know, it's interesting how all of these seemingly separate skills can actually reinforce each other.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, for example, if you're actively listening to native speakers, that can really improve your pronunciation. And then the better your pronunciation, the more confident you'll feel when you're actually speaking. It creates this positive feedback loop.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, considering all these different ways to immerse yourself and actively practice, what small change do you think you could make today that would have the biggest impact on your English learning journey? We're really excited to hear about your progress and see how far you've come.
Me too.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.